everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Trust Your Board podcast. My name's Stephen Wright, joined by Mr. William Monroe. Will, how you doing, man?
Steve, doing good over here. As everyone, I'm sure, is waiting with bated breath to find out. I will be needing 25 points from Justin Tucker tonight, and by tomorrow you will know on the league I was telling everybody about last week. So I don't even know if I'm going to watch the game, man. Just a kicker. I don't know if it's something I think I'm just going to wait and find out, because that's going to be too brutal to be rooting against and for a whole offense, depending on where they are on the field.
Yeah, it's as if the final week before the fantasy playoffs isn't stressful enough. Pushing the games to Tuesday is like extra torture.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know the feeling. You're hoping, they cross midfield and then get stopped pretty much every drive, right?
Right at the 40.
Oh, boy, yeah.
For those 35 to 40 yard lines, so you can hit some 50 yarders.
Yeah, and it's always a risk when you have a kicker on a good offense, because you always run that risk of, they just keep scoring and you just end up with the extra points. So like you get 4 points on the week, even though the team blew up. So you're hoping for the opposite of that, right?
Yeah. And Lamar's back. I was hoping they're playing Dallas. I was hoping they'd be in Dallas, but it looks like it's at home. So it will be an outside game. I'm not sure what the weather looks like there.
Well, at least, not that your odds are very high of getting 25 points with a kicker, but at least you have a kicker that could do it, right?
Yeah, one of the few that could. I don't think he's been over 15 this year, but he's definitely had his game.
Yeah, we know he could do it.
Really going off.
Opposed to like Jake Elliott or something, who is just, you're doomed.
Yeah, and that's why you're not starting to kicker on that type of defense, that type of offense. You're going with, the stud offenses and then the matchup plays.
Yeah, absolutely.
For the most part.
Absolutely. So, we'll see how that turns out for you.
Yeah, keep an eye out, everyone. I know this will come out Wednesday, but you may, depending on the site, have your waivers running Thursday morning. I'm not sure that all of them are, but I believe Yahoo is running Thursday morning as opposed to Wednesday morning.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like all that we've been through this enough times, or the site should be pretty good about pivoting everything to Thursday. This is the third week, I think, this year that's happened. So
yeah, well, last week was Friday, right? Because of the Wednesday game.
Yeah. So they should be fine with pivoting by now, I would imagine. You would think, anyway.
But yeah, take a look at your site and make sure, may already be done if it is regular waivers, but I'd imagine it's probably going to be Wednesday or Thursday morning waivers.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, before we jump into the start-sit bit of housekeeping here, for any new listeners, Will and I do shut down the podcast after week 16, championship week for 90% of people. If you fall into that 10% where you have championships on week 17, hit us up on Twitter at Trust Your Board. Of course, we'll be answering your questions there. And then we take a couple months off. Will, I think we were talking about coming back around the middle of March.
Yeah, getting ready for draft season. Try to get in there, a month and change ahead of time and start talking about rookie drafts. You and I are both big dynasty guys as well as redraft here. So that's really where we'll focus more on rookies leading up to the NFL draft, kind of get an idea of where we think they could go, what the kind of mock draft and rankings are looking like when it comes to rookies prior to the draft. And then obviously, the draft day will be nice and you'll know where these guys are going, and that'll shake a lot out, right? We saw Clyde Edwards-Helaire, go from somewhere in the 6 to 12 range all the way up to the 101 for most people. And that all was based on location in the draft. So we'll do a nice little primer leading up, so you'll kind of see where the talent stacks up and then, where the situation stacks up post-draft.
Yeah, so some rookie mocks, some startup mocks. Last year we did a draft predictions where we predicted where we think people were going to land. We reviewed our Dynasty League, went through all of the moves. Fun. Yeah, that was fun. We also
a lot of trades this year too, so could be some interesting looks there.
More this year than last year, I think. So that's always nice to see. Last year we did review our startup draft from a couple years ago in that league. I don't think we're going to do that again, but
we can always look into the other league that we have.
True. Yes, the disaster that was
relatively new.
Yeah. So maybe we'll do that.
It's only year 2 of that one, I think.
Yeah. So we try to do some different things, dynasty focus, but we mix in a couple redraft mocks in there just to get them done early. But yeah, definitely dynasty focus early on. So We are active on Twitter the entire time. So, I know a lot of Dynasty players are getting trades in January, February, March. Doesn't matter. Hit us up and we'll retweet that poll and give you an answer.
Yeah. And if you have any other ideas, we're always open to new things. I think, we've expanded to be a little more Dynasty focused in the offseason last year more than previous years. So always looking to innovate and elevate and try new things out. So definitely let us know if there's anything you're looking to hear.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess it's worth noting in those initial phases, we will be once every 2 weeks.
Yes, good call.
I think we moved to once a week starting in like June. So we'll probably figure out something similar. We'll iron that out and bring that to you in March. But in the beginning, once every 2 weeks, I think that's pretty fair, given that there's not a ton going on.
Yeah.
Cool. So you ready to jump in and start sit?
Yeah, let's get it going.
Let's do it. So starting off with quarterback, as always, this one was specified 4 points per touchdown here. Lamar Jackson at Cleveland or Taysom Hill at Philly. I'm glad you're answering first because this is a tough one.
Yeah, it is. And I think it's interesting because they both benefit from the 4-point touchdown. Usually you'd see Lamar or Hill get a boost because of it going against a, more of a traditional passer. Both of them benefit from it. I think, matchup wise, probably Taysom Hill, but the Eagles defense has been pretty good the last few weeks, right? They've gone up against some pretty good teams overall. But if you're going to hold, the Packers to what I think was end up being 28 or 31 points, they had that late run at the end. They actually played fairly well against them, fairly well against Seattle, who granted just lost to the Giants. So I don't know how good that actually looks, just the way they're currently playing, but they're a better defense than the record and the stats may show. Cleveland, tale of two halves this week, man. Did they shut them out, or was it just 7 points Tennessee scored in the first half?
Yeah, I think it was 7.
And then they come out really strong in the second half. Lamar gets a game to tonight here, last night or previously for him whenever you're listening, but he'll have a warm up game, so we don't really know how he did against the Cowboys just yet, but he, should be able to get it going there, get his legs back under him, and then have a really big time matchup. Obviously the Saints want to win. Eagles want to win, that they're, considering they're still in the playoff race for the division. But Cleveland and Baltimore is going to be a huge implication. Both teams are trailing the Steelers still, but both teams are in the playoff hunt. Surprisingly, Cleveland, I believe, is right in the lead of the wild cards, where I think Baltimore is outside looking in, or maybe the 7 seed right now. So that's going to have huge implications. Monday night game, don't always love to wait for Monday night games, but never going to have that be a huge factor. It's close, and Taysom Hill has played well the last few weeks, but I'm going to go with Lamar Jackson. He's a guy that you invested a lot in come draft season, likely, and we'll see how he looks tonight. If he looks horrific against the Cowboys, different story. But as long as he looks at least decent, if not great against the Cowboys tonight, I am locking in Lamar Jackson. What about you?
And I will clarify, I wanted to jump in, but I was fending off the dog. The Ravens are on the bubble of the playoff spot. So they are 6-5. The Raiders are ahead of them at 7-5.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So we'll see what happens tonight then.
Yeah, all the other teams in the playoffs currently have at least 8 wins. So yeah, this is a must-win game for the Ravens, I think, really.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll see what happens as far as the, what happens as far as fantasy goes. Oh boy, that is a tough one. I can see the Cleveland Baltimore game being low scoring. I can also see it being high scoring. I lean towards lower scoring. Taysom's the interesting one. With the news that Philly is rolling out Jalen Hurts at quarterback, you could see kind of a new look offense, and it's an offense that the Saints aren't going to be able to prepare for. So, maybe you get a boost and you get kind of that breakout from Philly. That's the roll of the dice when you start a new quarterback, right? Sometimes they come in and the offense is on fire for like the first game or two, and then it kind of settles down. Or sometimes it comes in and the offense just sucks. So that's the roll of the dice. If the Philly offense comes out and looks different and is pretty good, I'd rather have Hill because I think that could end up being an interesting game. But you roll the dice of that being a terrible game and them not really needing Hill at all. So with that in mind, I think in a vacuum, I'd go with Lamar. If you need an upside, I think Hill has it.
Yeah, I mean, they're both good options. But yeah, I think we're both on board with Lamar there. Next up, PPR, two running backs here. We have Myles Gaskins versus the Chiefs and James Conner at Buffalo.
I think I'm going with Connor here pretty easily. I think that's a pretty solid game for him. I like Gaskins. He's had a great year. I just don't know if it's going to be a good game from him against the Chiefs. I mean, Miami is improving. Defense middle of the pack. I really like what they're doing overall, but they're not on the Chiefs level yet. And I imagine the Chiefs are going to go in and just blow them out. And who knows what happens with Gaskins there? Maybe it just means more dump offs, or maybe he just lowers his output entirely. But I'm going to go with Connor here. He feels like the safer play to me with plenty of upside still. How about you?
Yeah, definitely not as easy of an option for me here. And and it sounds like Connor's going to play next week. It sounds like he could have played this week, but they decided not to. But and maybe the rushing output they had last night will make them lean on him more. But it seems the last few weeks they haven't really leaned on him a ton. 9 carries, 13 carries, 13 carries. Hasn't had more than 3 targets in the last 4 weeks. So you're not really going to have a ton of receiving upside in this PPR matchup. And, Buffalo's a good team, not a great team. San Francisco moved the ball a good bit on them, but defensively they're good, not great. Myles Gaskin, though, man, 21 carries this week, obviously against Cincinnati. Different story. Only 2 targets, but traditionally before that, he's been getting somewhere in the 4 to 7, target range. So I do believe I lean Gaskin here. He's played better overall, less competition, and he is involved in the passing game. Game script, he's almost game script proof, and I don't imagine Buffalo is going to blow out the Steelers, so Connor can't get game scripted out either. Both are decent options. I'm going to lean Gaskin here, though, even in a tough matchup.
That is perfectly fair. Stick with the running back position. Half point PPR. Mostert versus Washington or Gallman versus Arizona Cardinals?
Oh, this is crazy. I'm going Gallman, and it's not even close. Boy. Right? I mean, look, Mostert's obviously the better talent, but the matchup against Washington is tough. We saw it here this week. There wasn't a ton of talent, out with Connor going, but Washington's defense and their front seven specifically is very tough. And San Francisco has really shuffled it around. Mostert's the guy you got to play if you have to play one of them, but I don't know that I want to play any of them right now just because they're using and McKinnon didn't even get any carries, and he was active, so he could easily be worked back in. Gallman is the guy, and they made it clear he's going to be the one that gets the carries. Their defense has been playing pretty well. I don't know that they stop the Cardinals. Maybe they slow them down enough to keep this a game. I'm going with Gallman, and yeah, it's crazy. It's not even close for me here.
Yeah, this is one of those things where my head's like, yeah, it's Gallman pretty easily here, bud. But my heart's like, no, you can't do that. You just can't do it. And you got to fight those urges sometimes. So I'll go with Gallman as well for all the reasons that you mentioned. It's hard to trust Mostert. And, if I had to go, we'll frame it as an upside play. If I had to go with an upside guy, it would be Mostert, because I think, in the San Francisco offense, his upside is through the roof. But his floor is just not very good right now. It's like you can't trust him, man. So, yeah, I'll stick with Gallman unless you need real high upside. It's crazy to say.
Yeah. So our next matchup here, this is going to be half point PPR. And this is a flex question, it looks like. Miles Sanders versus the Saints. Amari Cooper in Cincinnati.
I think I'd really like Sanders, because I would assume they're going to rely on the running game a lot with Hurts in there, and maybe Hurts being a rushing guy creates more opportunity for Sanders. But Cooper's matchup against Cincinnati is just too hard to pass up. I mean, that screams great play, and I would trust Dalton to get him the ball. So I'm going to go with Cooper there. How about you?
Yeah, this one's tough, and you probably, have to second guess when you're looking at this. Man, do I really have to pick between these two?
I know, right?
Right?
Good problem to have.
And especially the way you were drafted, right? You probably took these two in the first 3 or 4 rounds. But yeah, this season it has been more of a question on both of them. I almost don't want to play any Eagles this week just because you just don't know what it's going to look like. It's got to look better than it has the last few weeks, granted. But Sanders, I think, is the only one you can play. Goddard, questionable because Ertz is back, and we just don't know where
Hurts is going to lean.
Quarterback Hurts. Yeah. There we go. Yeah, where he's going to lean. So Sanders, I think, is the only one you can play. But yeah, Amari Cooper against the Bengals, I lean him slightly. It's half PPR. We don't Miles got a lot of catches, but a lot of his were kind of wheel routes and out routes that were schemed up, and I'm just not sure where Hurts' strengths are, and if he's not going to have the receiving upside. They seem to work Jordan Howard in for some reason this week. I think just as many touches as Boston Scott did.
Gross.
And Sanders only was, saw like 17-40 and 50% of the snaps. It was really weird. This is the playoffs, so it's really tough to lean away from that. But man, I think I lean Amari Cooper here. It's tough, but yeah, I think it's Amari just because you know what you're getting with him against Cincinnati, whereas don't know about Sanders and the Saints.
Yep, that is fair, man. You did skip one on our list. Another flex one, a big one.
Ooh, big one.
Big one. For our friend Craig here, he needs upside, Will. PPR, James White at the LA Rams, Goddard versus Saints, Rieger versus Saints, Keelan Cole versus Titans, or Mooney versus the Texans. Who's the upside play there?
I don't know. I mean, you could say the receivers and Rieger or Cole, just because you have maybe more touchdown upside. Mooney's getting some targets. I probably will go James White in full PPR against the Rams. I imagine the Rams are going to be able to, move the ball more than most teams can against New England, just because you got, more veteran quarterback, good weapons around him. So hopefully White is utilized more. And he's been getting some carries as well, strangely. We'll see if Sony gets really worked back in. I don't want to work in the Eagles players. I mean, you got to understand Rieger has upside, especially with their return game as an option. If your league has returning touchdowns, Steve, not all leagues do, apparently.
Yeah, some of our Dynasty friends figured that out the hard way.
Yeah. But regardless, I mean, he definitely has a ton of upside. And, working with a rookie quarterback, you don't know how much either of them worked with each other in the offseason. But if Rieger wasn't with the first team right away, there's a chance maybe he has some offseason work with Hurts. Regardless, I lean White here. If I've got to go pure upside, probably Rieger, because I imagine he's going to be one of the top targets, whereas I know Craig has been pretty high on Mooney. It's there. The Texans is a decent matchup, but more likely than not, if there's extra targets, they're all going to go to Allen Robinson.
Maybe I do. It's tough because you need the upside, and it's between Rieger and Mooney for me. I think I do lean Mooney because of the matchup. Houston's a great matchup to have. No matter who the quarterback is, they can beat Houston, and he gets a lot of targets. Going back to the past 4 weeks, 11, 2, not good, obviously. The bye week, and then 9, and then 6. So we've seen games from him before where he's, got 70 yards and a touchdown, or something like that. I'm going to take my shot there solely because of the matchup. I mean, the targets are there, the matchup's there, and I trust him more than I trust the Eagles right now. I mean, it kind of goes back to what I said earlier about the Philly offense and what is it going to look like with Hurts. Rieger could have a lot of boom to him. He could have a lot of bust to him. You really just don't know. So given that we just don't know, I mean, I guess you could spin that and say if you need upside, Rieger probably has the absolute highest upside. I mean, but just with that,
Mooney hasn't been over 43 yards since week 8.
Yeah, it's been a while.
He's got, what, maybe 2 touchdowns on the year.
Yeah, and they've had
I
some
just
bad
don't think it's
defenses.
there.
He played Tennessee, they played Minnesota. They had some bad defenses there. Detroit. So, the
I think this
opportunity
is
was
a
there.
rushing game. I think Montgomery goes off this week.
Maybe.
Yeah, and maybe, Houston's going to score, so it's not like Jacksonville where you're going to go up and maybe be able to go into autopilot. But yeah, I have him in the One Dynasty League, and I played him maybe once or twice. I just can't pull the trigger, to put him in unless it's an emergency situation.
Yeah, I guess I've really talked myself in the rigor. I guess if you need absolute upside, it's him.
Yeah.
Now, I think Mooney probably has in my opinion, a better chance of hitting his upside, even if it is lower. But Rieger's probably the absolute highest because we just don't know what the offense is going to look like. Ugh.
Yeah, it's tough, and it's weird, but I do think this year James White has had more upside than
he has.
You usually imagine from him.
Yeah.
So, running back, likely ahead of Sony. Obviously, touchdowns could be sniped from Cam, but while you want to understand whether you need upside or not, I always am a little wary when you discount guys like James White because they're traditionally not an upside play.
Yeah, that's fair. Can't argue with that.
Yeah, next up, we got Kyler Murray at the Giants and Justin Herbert at home for the Falcons.
I'll take Herbert. We didn't talk about him on the podcast last week. I did mention on Twitter to someone that I didn't trust him a lot because I don't trust rookies against Bill Belichick because he's just a mastermind. So and I'm not worried about any sort of like drop off or anything. That's me saying that I'm confident in him moving forward. He's got not as great as a matchup as it used to be. The Falcons defense definitely improving. But I still like that. Kyler just hasn't been the same since that injury. It was a shoulder injury, I think, and the Giants defense getting better and better as well. I need to see a little bit more from Kyler, right? I mean, obviously, I'm trusting him in most situations, but if I have another talent like a Herbert there, I'm going to go with the Herbert until Kyler shows me otherwise that he's fully healthy or whatever he's working through has been fixed.
Yeah, it's close. Both of them are solid plays, but I will lean Herbert as well based on the matchup. Kyler, the Giants defense has been playing well, as I mentioned earlier. And that's part of the reason that they are 5-7, first place in the division. Home game, Kyler, like you said, possibly still a little banged up. They need to get in, in the win column if they're going to, have a chance to wild card here. But I will stick with Herbert and what I imagine is going to be a pretty high scoring game against Falcons.
Okay, next up, we have the battle of our waiver wire episode here. Halfway PPR. I don't even remember. Devontae Booker? That was his first name, right?
Yes.
It's been irrelevant for so long, I don't remember anymore. Devontae Booker versus the Colts or Cam Akers versus the Patriots there.
All right. This is a tough one. Booker, I don't believe got hurt, but Akers did get injured, did he not?
I think a minor injury. I don't think anything that anyone's concerned about.
A lot of factors there. Is Henderson fully healthy as well? So there's a lot of factors that go in with that matchup, especially against the Patriots. Colts are a pretty solid defense as well, but it does sound like Josh Jacobs isn't going to play again. So I think I lean Booker for at least the safety. Maybe pure upside is Akers. But I'm not thrilled about either of them. In a vacuum, it's very close. I think if you have them both on your roster, you wait to see how healthy Akers is, how healthy the other backs are. And if all three of them are active against the Patriots and Booker is the lead back against the Colts, I lean Booker. Obviously, if Jacobs comes back, Booker's pretty much irrelevant. But if there's any injury options outside of Akers on his side, and he's one of two or one of one, he's the guy. I think I lean Booker, though, in a vacuum here if what we expect occurs.
Yeah, so it sounds like Jacobs is going to be out. So I'll go in with the assumption that he's going to be out. So, a lot of it, I'll phrase it, comes down to Henderson. If Henderson's out, I'll go with Cam Akers. I trust him more, and I trust the Rams' offense a little bit more. If Henderson's healthy and playing, then I will go with Booker because, as we've seen with that Rams backfield all year long, it's very unpredictable. You really don't know what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, you got the Patriots. So, I mean, it's not like Booker's got the easiest matchup either, but.
Yeah, it's a Thursday game too.
Yeah, but I'm more confident in his role. So, if Henderson plays, I'll go with Booker. If not, I'll go with Akers. That's how I'll phrase it.
All right. Next up, Robert Woods versus the Patriots. Deontay Johnson in Buffalo, and that is a PPR matchup.
This is like my team. Except I don't have to make the decision because they're both just starting.
Both plugged in.
Yeah, which is weird because I don't really think about either of these two anymore. They're just auto starts for me. I will go with Deontay Johnson against Buffalo. Buffalo's defense, as you said before, good, not great, not as great as they have been in the past. And his upside's high. I mean, I wish he would fix these drops, but even with the drops, he's been great for fantasy. Robert Woods, a little bit more consistent, up and down. We haven't really seen that in years past, but that's what we're seeing now. And still got the Patriots, not as good as they were in the past, but still a pretty good defense. So I will go with Deontay. I just see more consistency out of him. I trust what they're doing in Pittsburgh with him and with Big Ben a little bit more than I'm trusting Robert Woods right now. It's really as simple as that.
He seems to be, kind of the go-to guy. And then Claypool and Juju get worked in as well. I think I do lean Deontay as well here, but if it wasn't for Woods' last 3 weeks, this would have been easy because Woods this season has been very, unwoodsy, if you will. He's been getting some targets, but not a ton of catches. But man, 12 catches on 15 targets, 7 catches on 12 targets, 10 catches on 11 targets the last 3 weeks. Dude has almost 40 targets in 3 weeks.
Yeah, he's turned it on.
Almost 30 catches, yeah. Over, looks like almost 300 yards. Only 1 touchdown, but you're not really banking on touchdowns with him. It's tough. I lean Deontay Johnson, especially with the matchup there. Who knows which of the receivers are going to get their top corner there. Blanking on his name in Buffalo. And then Gilmore, obviously, with the Patriots. Tough matchups, but I'll lean Deontay.
Yeah, Tre'Davious White, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and I guess I should clarify, as you say, it's close. I should have clarified it in my statement. It is close. I definitely made it sound like it's super easy, but I'm just, finding reasons to split the difference. Yeah. It's close for me as well, so don't read into that too much. PPR, Jonathan Taylor at Vegas or Corey Davis at Jacksonville. Interesting one.
Yeah, man. Corey Davis has turned it on recently. It's crazy to think that he was kind of written off and forgotten about for a while there. That being said, I'm still going Jonathan Taylor. Maybe I'm falling into the trap again here, but 13 carries, 91 yards last week, a couple catches for big touchdown as well. I'm hoping that this is it, man. Vegas, Houston, the next 2 weeks. I know you and I both, for our Dynasty League purposes, are hoping that this is it.
For sure.
Corey Davis is looking good, though, man. I got to give it to him. 11 catches, 12 targets, 182 yards and a touchdown last week against Cleveland. 67, 113, 70. He's had the yardage totals the last few weeks. I'm not opposed to playing him, but I will take the running back when it's close like this. Especially even in PPR. With Taylor, being involved in the passing game as well. So close, but I'll go Taylor.
Yeah, I think I'm in the same boat. It really comes down to Taylor's matchup against Vegas. Vegas has been very easy to run on all year. And when it comes to a running back, that's just too hard to pass up, really. Corey Davis obviously been really good. Even his down weeks have been, average, over the past, little while now. So you're definitely going to get a good floor with him, but JT, it's hard to pass up against Vegas. So it's close for me as well. I would say if you need like absolute high upside, it'd be Corey Davis. But in most situations in a vacuum, I'll go with Taylor. I think he's got a solid floor and decent upside as well this week.
Awesome. So last matchup here, we have a four quarterback options here. Bridgewater versus the Broncos, Cam in LA against the Rams, Darnold in Seattle, and Glennon versus the Titans.
Oh boy. This very well may be like the situation I'm looking at in our league, looking at the names. I don't know if Bridgewater's available, but oh boy. I feel like you can make a case for all of them. Bridgewater, good offense, against an average defense. Cam's tougher. The Rams defense has been pretty good. That's kind of a tough start. Darnold looked good last week. Seattle defense, real bad. Lennon has looked fine. Titans defense looked real bad. Oh man. Thinking a vacuum, I'd go with Bridgewater because he feels the safest out of all of them. I mean, we know what Darnold and Glennon's floor is, and Cam, I guess their floors are trash. They could all have big weeks because of their opponents, and Cam because he's a rusher, but they're all scary to play. So I guess because of that, I'd go with Bridgewater. But they all feel gross.
Yeah, it's tough. I think I lean Cam, and they all feel gross. I kind of rule out Glennon and Darnold. Darnold's interesting, but I think Seattle's defense has been getting better. So I rule both of them out, and it's Cam or Bridgewater. And I look at the weapons, and I think Bridgewater needs the weapons around him to be good, whereas Cam, hasn't had many receiving weapons yet. But that rushing ability is just the baseline. Without, and I don't know if it's for sure, but potentially without Samuel and DJ Moore both getting put on the COVID list this week, I lean Cam. If they're both back, or even one of them's back, it's a little closer, and I'm okay going with him. But if we're limiting the weapons for Bridgewater, I am a little worried there, and we just know what Cam's going to do. He'll probably throw a pick, but he'll maybe get to 100 passing yards, but probably get somewhere between 50 and 100 rushing yards, and if he can get 2 or 3 touchdowns, that's all you're looking for.
I didn't know DJ Moore got put on a COVID list.
And Curtis Samuel.
I don't care about Curtis Samuel. I care about DJ Moore.
Yeah, well, DJ Moore's on there. You need Curtis Samuel on there.
Oh my God, my team, DJ Moore on
I don't
COVID.
think they're ruled out yet, though, because they were put on, I believe, Sunday or Monday.
Oh, boy. Okay.
And they were on bye this week, so they, maybe have a little bit more time to recover. But
I hope. I'm just looking at my team with DJ Moore, Mark Andrews, Josh Jacobs, Antonio Gibson. Not scary. Kind of worrisome. Okay, so that's going to wrap up our start sit questions. Will, you ready to jump into some trades?
Yeah, I got some good ones here. Per usual, just some dynasty trades as most deadlines are done here, but some interesting dynasty trades ahead of us.
Yeah, some real interesting ones here. So we will start off with this one, 12-team Superflex PPR. Would you ever have Miles Sanders and Christian Kirk or Jonathan Taylor and Debo?
It's interesting because when I read it, I imagined that this would be one that would be more in tune like preseason when Sanders' hype was like out of this world. But seeing this here as a mid-season, I think it's I think it would have been close preseason. Right now, I think it's fairly easily JT and Debo. I get Sanders, is in a good situation, maybe not a great situation, but JT, well, Sanders probably has proven it more than JT. He's in a better situation and is probably on par talent-wise. So I lean JT there, and then definitely Debo over Kirk. So pretty easily JT and Debo.
Yeah, so this week all of our trades came courtesy of polls. So I do have results for all of them. For me, I'm the same as you. Debo is miles ahead of Kirk.
Pun intended.
I know, right? you can make a case for Sanders or JT, I think, but I'm definitely on the JT side, and the poll crushed on the JT side. So, yeah, I think everyone on the universe is aligned on that one there.
Yeah, that one's pretty easy. Next, we have another dynasty, as we mentioned. Antonio Gibson, Miles Sanders, PPR. This is an interesting one.
Yeah, I looked at this one. It was like, oh man, am I actually about to pick Gibson? And I gave it a minute of thought, and I'm going with Gibson here. Not easily. I do think it's pretty close, but he's just got that X factor like a CMC does. And Sanders, I could see falling back into a timeshare moving forward or something. I'm not sure, but I'll go with Gibson, and not really a second thought. How about you?
I like both guys, and I imagine, even though Gibson has looked great, You could probably still ask for Gibson plus for Sanders. But yeah, I mean, both teams aren't in great situations. You thought the Eagles are in better situation than Washington. The Eagles have regressed. Washington stepped forward a bit. But the defense looks really good. Gibson looks good. You got McLaurin, obviously looks very good. Might have a sturdy tight end in Thomas. So if they can, get a quarterback in the draft or in a trade here soon, it could be a very interesting team. And Gibson, would be the guy there. So I think I lean Gibson here. But I probably, if I'm the Sanders owner, maybe ask for a little bit more. See if you can get an extra pick out of him or something.
A poll crush on the Gibson side.
Yeah.
No surprise. I mean, Gibson's loved by Twitter. So
yeah, recency bias to a degree, but yeah, I mean, he's been killing it. So
exactly. Next one here, 12-team Superflex half-point PPR. Terry McLaurin or Derek Carr in a late first.
Yeah, interesting. I'm going to go with the McLaurin side. I know Superflex, important to have quarterbacks. Their Carr's been playing fairly well. But he's, QB2 at best, right? Probably in a perfect world, he's your third quarterback. And a late first is good. You're going to get talent falling down because quarterback's going earlier. But McLaurin's proven, you know what you have in him. You're hoping, just like you're hoping with Gibson, that they can get a more sturdy and more upside quarterback there. Whereas a late first, you just, you're taking a shot on a guy, probably going to be talented, but you just don't know. So I'll take McLaurin.
Yeah, I'm the same. I'll take McLaurin. I've always supported Carr. I've liked Carr, but he definitely feels like one of those quarterbacks that could just be gone. And not gone, like he'll always be in the league, but just lose his starting job in the blink of an eye. And a late first isn't enough for me to really move the needle, so I will go with McLaurin. This poll was, I think, 60-40. It was a little bit closer, but it was on the McLaurin side as well.
All right, next up, so big-time dynasty trade here, and it's interesting since we are the Metcalf owner. Be interesting to see what we would want to command. 12-team PPR tight end premium, DK Metcalf or Jerry Jeudy, Deebo Samuel, and a 22-second.
Not enough.
Yeah.
Not enough at all. Jeudy's solid. Deebo's solid, but it's just not enough. I mean, for Metcalf, the price on him right now is 2 first-round picks plus. Jeudy's worth a first. Deebo, late first, early second, and then a 22-second is just too far out and too unpredictable. So I need more. Give me Metcalf.
Crazy. It's crazy to think, but he is the top 5 receiver right now in Dynasty. With the situation he's in, fairly easy. You can command more. I think it's a fair, offer, right? You're not, scoffing at it, but it's not something that's going to move the needle for me for DK.
Yep, and the poll agreed with us. I don't remember the percentage was, but pretty strongly in the Metcalf favor there. Our last question, another McLaurin one, a pretty interesting one here. Terry McLaurin or Calvin Ridley, straight up.
Yeah, this one's interesting as well. I went back and forth thinking about it. Ultimately, I come down on the Ridley side. Both are in, possibly uncertain quarterbacks because they're not with their, quarterback that's going to be with them in the prime, right? You're going to get a new quarterback in Washington. And you imagine, through Ridley's prime here, there's likely going to be a new quarterback, but you probably have a better chance at hanging on to Matt Ryan there for a bit. And Ridley, I think we've just seen him. I mean, both of them have played really well, but we've seen him look like an absolute alpha, whereas McLaurin looks like he's going to be very good and could be an alpha, but he just hasn't had really the opportunity to show it without having a quality, offense around him.
Yeah, I think I lean the same way, which is a shame because I really like McLaurin, but, he is the top guy on his team right now, and he needs the quarterback to kind of elevate the next step up. Ridley's already got the quarterback, and he's not really the top guy on his team. So you could see a situation where, Julio starts fading, Julio retires, whatever happens with Julio, he steps aside, and now it's Ridley's game, or Ridley's team, and he gets another bump up. So, yeah, I am on the Ridley side as well. I wish he had a longer-term answer at quarterback, but, I don't think Matt Ryan is looking at retirement or anything anytime soon. He looks like he's fine. So, and we don't want to be looking too far out in Dynasty. So I'm with you. I will go with Ridley there.
Awesome. So that wraps us up here for the trade start sits. I'll say good luck, everybody, here in the first round of the playoffs. Hopefully, we'll be talking to a lot of you guys next week who are looking to go into round 2 of the playoffs. Any last words there, Steve?
No, the same. I hope everyone has a healthy team moving into the playoffs, unlike myself. But with that in mind, we'll talk to you guys next week when we go over waivers for week 15. Until then, trust your board.